this Washington County Board of Education together. After a moment of silence, I'd like for Ms. Dillinger to lead us in the pledge of the flag.
Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Under the continued provision of the state executive order to protect the safety and welfare of the public, the Washington County Board of Education meeting today is closed to the public. Some board members will be participating electronically in order to maintain transparency. The meeting is live streamed and an audio recording will be provided as requested. The live stream link can be found on the website www.wcde.org. Before I call the meeting to order, I am going to take attendance. Annette Buchanan.
Here.
Todd Ganger.
Present.
Chad Fleener.
Present.
Jason Day. Mary Beth Dixon.
Here.
Mitch Meredith.
Here.
David Hammonds.
Here.
Phil McClain. Okay. I need a motion on consider the consent agenda.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Buchanan? Mr. Day? Mr. Day?
You're muted, Jason.
Thank you. Jason, you're muted. Alright. Ms. Dillinger?
Yes.
Mr. Fleener?
Yes.
Mr. Ganger?
Aye.
Mr. Hammond? Mr. McClain?
Yes.
Mr. Meredith?
Jennifer, hang on just a second. I'm looking at the last page of the minutes. Yeah, did we get, the consent agenda includes the minutes. Did we get the corrected copy in there?
Yes, I added the words FY21 budget to that last motion.
Okay, well, I just wanted, okay, I didn't, the copy I've got here doesn't show that, but, as long as, it shows that, the minutes reflect that I did not vote to send the budget to the county commission,
Okay,
I'm good with it.
okay.
This here, it says consent.
And Mr. Irvin?
Aye. But we don't have the meeting agenda. We can accept the meeting. Is that the way it goes?
Well, consideration of meeting agendas next, usually do consent agenda first,
So I need a motion to get the meeting agenda.
yeah.
I need a motion to accept the meeting agenda.
Move for approval of the meeting agenda. Second.
Okay, roll call vote, please.
Ms. Buchanan?
Yes.
Mr. Day?
Yes.
Ms. Dillinger?
Yes.
Mr. Fleener?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Ganger?
Aye.
Mr. Hammond?
Yes.
Mr. McClain?
Yes.
Mr. Meredith?
Yes.
Mr. Irvin?
Aye. Okay, director's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The facilities committee, we're getting a whole bunch of Okay, the facilities committee did not meet, but Mr. Patrick has filed a facilities update. That document is in BOE Connect. I'm hoping that each of you have had the opportunity to have a look at it. Mr. Patrick is with us digitally, and if you have any questions or comments at this time, I think you'll see that in spite of the closure, perhaps because of it, both the maintenance department and our numerous contractors have been quite busy. And I'll pause to see if any board member has a comment or question.
Hey, Bill, if you don't mind speaking up, I can hardly hear you. You're talking about the Bernard Ruffin, correct?
That comes up, I think, later in the, that is a separate agenda item. Mr. Flainer comes up later in the meeting.
Okay.
It disappeared. I was reading it and it disappeared.
Yeah, hold on to.
I do have a couple of comments, if you'd allow me, Mr. Chairman, under the facilities update.
Sorry about that.
Okay,
There you go.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I went around yesterday and looked at all the schools, and I noticed that Grandview has quite a bit of bushes that are dead.
hey, Chad, let's wait on that till we get into facilities.
With this-
Okay, I thought that's where we were at, I'm
No,
sorry.
we're director's report.
Yeah,
Well, that's part of it.
because we don't have a facility.
Okay.
report.
All right, go ahead, Chad. I'm sorry.
No, I didn't hear the first part. That's the reason I thought we were talking about the Bernard Ruffin, which is number 3 bullet on that facilities report. But I was concerned though of what I seen over there, and especially at Boones Creek with the erosion, the hay bales that they put there for erosion, and grass growing up, and the lack of weed eating around the signage and the bank, and the on top of, I guess, the first tier wall. And I mean, we need to do better than that. I mean, it's a $30 million building, and it's an eyesore with the ridges sitting right beside of it. And I don't expect it to look like a golf course, but we are trying to bring kids into this school, and we spent a good amount of money to make it look nice, and I think we need to do a better job on that. I also wanted to ask if there was an update on the re-brick proposal by Steve Hutton. On your report, you said that you was asking about that, Dr. Flannery.
That is underway. That process is underway, and we should have a report very soon.
Okay.
Is that property that Chad's talking about is actually not ours? Is that not the county's? Is that something that we need to go to the county and ask them to go and take care of?
Yes.
That's what I thought. Did you hear that, Chad?
We've had this, this ain't the first time we've tried to wrestle this bull. And,
Yeah, I know.
we need to come to better, we need to do something about it. Either we need to take care of it, or they need to take care of it, but it looks like it's our school that suffers.
Yeah.
I mean, your sign that says car riders and front office and buses, whether it's on our property or not, the weeds are as high as the sign is.
I agree, so,
I wanna.
yeah, go ahead, Mary Beth.
We have, since you brought that up about Grandview, we have a lot of schools that the shrubbery is just up to the roof. And I'm not exactly sure, maybe Mr. Patrick could address whose responsibility is to trim shrubbery.
We'll take care of the shrubbery.
Okay, thank you. A lot of
You're welcome.
raking and shrubbery and a lot of things would look good spruced up, especially before school starts. But that's a thing last year we had a lot of schools at the beginning of the year where the teachers and the principals had to plan for a work day outside, and they've got a lot to do, and that shouldn't be one of their jobs. But thank you.
You're welcome.
Go ahead, Bill.
Okay, when the board approved the bid for blanket insurance coverage last month, It was noted that Washington County Schools could receive a discount on premiums if it became a drug-free workplace. We did some research. The Drug-Free Workplace Program is coordinated by the Tennessee Bureau of Workers' Compensation. According to a statute in Title 50 of Tennessee Code Annotated, participation in the program requires an application and review process that does not appear to be especially difficult. However, I spoke at length with Attorney Scott Bennett about the idea. Scott had two observations, and he had had some experience with the drug-free workplace. He said that the current board policy, which is policy 5.403, governing drug and alcohol testing for employees, is satisfactory for our purposes. And he also noted that becoming a drug-free workplace will involve random drug testing of employees. I'm going to quote him here. He said, "We will eventually mess it up, we will end up in court, and we will lose." That's a quote. Apparently the Fourth Amendment to the Constitution says that we enjoy protection in our persons, absent due process, and the courts have taken a dim view of random drug testing as a means of due process. So I guess I'm asking if the board wants to pursue this further.
Can you do, is it the random part that makes it a problem?
The random part is the problem.
You know, the company I work for, you had through the interview and employment process was a drug test.
Mm-hmm.
Can we do something that's required annually or something like that and it not be
Yes, you can.
a problem?
If it were required, I guess it would be different instead of random, but you have to pick up the cost. And there it's not.
But don't we drug test the bus drivers?
Yes, that's by law, and it's done quarterly.
And we pay for it?
We pay
And what's it cost per?
25. It's not a war pension, but it's not an insignificant amount. I'm thinking it's $25 per hour.
But that's 100, and we're talking about going to 1,200.
Yes.
Chad, you had your hand up?
Yes, sir. Appreciate it, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to ask, what was the savings for going for a drug-free workplace? And also, too, if I don't understand why we couldn't do that for typical reasons of the company I work for, it is random drug test. And if, as long as you have your employment and that's part of your employment, I'm surprised that would be that big a problem. Have you discussed this with Mr. Bennett?
Yes, that was where I got this information. It was from a conversation with Scott Bennett.
And how much did we would say that would be an annual savings if we went for a drug-free workplace?
There are several pieces to the policy. It would be 5% of one part of it. The memory serves, it was going to be about $15,000.
Okay. Is there other area systems that are considered drug-free workplaces?
Not to my knowledge, no, sir.
Todd?
My comment on, I guess one question and a comment, is there a certain number that you have to randomly do when it's, I don't know if they do it monthly, quarterly, however it is, but whenever the time comes up for randomly picking the people, is there a number of people, what is the number of people that has to be chosen to take the test?
I'd have to investigate that. I'm sure that's part of the process. I don't know.
Okay, because, and I'm like Chad, my workplace does it, and there's never been an issue there. And I mean, I understand what Mr. Bennett's saying to a degree, but I also like to have a little more confidence in it being handled. I mean, I'm not sure that maybe we need to do a little more investigating on it, or maybe even check and see how many districts in the state do it.
I can do that.
So it'd be around a cost of $30,000 if it's $25 a person and we have 1,200, right?
I don't think we have to do every employee every year.
You'd just be pulling, and I don't know if we got 1,200 employees, if there's a set number, you gotta do a percentage of that. I mean, we don't, on our random drug tests, not everyone is drug tested. They're randomly chosen. I think it might be like 10. And I don't know how.
I tell you what, our broker, Johnson City Insurance, offered to walk the board through this process personally. And, I can, get him to join a meeting at some point in the future to do that very thing, to answer the questions that I can.
I just don't want the cost to outdo the savings.
Yeah.
You know, if it's gonna cost us more than 15,000 or if it's gonna cost us 15,000, I don't see any benefits.
Mr. Chairman, the comments of the board indicate that the board is interested in pursuing this and getting more information, and I will do that both with our attorney and with our insurance board. Is that satisfactory?
Yeah, Chad had another question. Chad, you there?
Now, before you move on to the next one, I'd like to go back to the facilities update just as long as we get done with this. I had one question on that, if you don't mind, sir.
On the drug testing?
Facilities.
Oh, facilities?
No, on the facilities update.
Okay. Just hold on there. We'll let you go back and bring some more information back.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I have another thing I want to say.
And then-
So it says that the custodians, the cleaning crews have been working, are they sanitizing the lockers and the rooms and things like that? Is that what they're doing?
Mr. Patrick will have to address that.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
I was asking if the lockers and the classrooms and all the rooms in the buildings are being sanitized.
Yes, ma'am.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Mr. Fleener, do you have a question about facilities also?
Go ahead, Chad.
Yes, sir. Mr. Patrick, I just want to ask you about the warranty work at Bench Creek Elementary. Have you all had time to work through that, or when does that warranty end? I thought it was the end of May. I may be wrong on that. I just wanted some clarification on that.
Yes, sir, we are, that is ongoing, and actually are going to start removing some of that tile floor that we've had problems with in the building after the 22nd day of May. We still have, I'm still asking and trying to receive information on how they're going to address these faucets we have in the gang restrooms. But any other issues that we brought to their attention have been addressed quickly and to our satisfaction.
Thank you. I'm sorry I had to bring it.
That's okay. That's okay. Let me go ahead and address a question you asked earlier about the school brick situation. I did talk to Mr. Hutton again, and he told me day before yesterday that yes, he was going to out there to look at that, and I still haven't heard back from him.
Okay.
I think we've dispensed with the drug.
That's what I said. I appreciate you looking into that.
We've got some direction there. Another facilities issue, there has been essentially no progress made on any of the energy plan proposals since we had to shut down schools March 18th. I'd like some direction from the board at this time on what your expectations are, on do we want to ramp this up, or do we want to wait until we get back in the buildings at some point in the future. So, Mr. Chairman, I'm just interested in comments there.
Mr. Ganger.
I guess my question would be, I guess one, why hasn't there been progress? Because of what's been going on, or is it, we're waiting on
These
students?
companies do not want to
Okay.
congregate in groups to meet and do this.
Dr. Flannery, may I?
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Philip.
Yes, since we have spoken last, the state have sort of, some of these companies have lifted their travel bans. I have already scheduled the last two firms to tour the school at the end of this month. So we'll get those completed and we'll try to get something back to the board.
So we are moving forward with it. I mean,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, we are.
Mr. Patrick, that was information I did not have and would have appreciated knowing that before the board meeting.
Sir?
We'll talk tomorrow about that.
Yes, sir.
All right, we'll move ahead then. I had planned to have Tawana McKinney give a grant update at this meeting, but because the meetings are closed, it just wasn't possible. I did want to let the board know that she keeps a regularly updated spreadsheet, and so far in this fiscal year, she has been responsible for $448,408 in grants. None of this is money that's pending. This is money that has been guaranteed. These funds have actually been granted, and she's got another $30,000 or so pending before the end of the fiscal year. So without exception, board members, we will continue funding her position into the next year. It seems like she's doing a real good job.
Mr. Ganger?
I hope you pass that along with the commission, because sometimes we have to spend some money to save some money, and that was one of those positions we had to add. And, you know, and we were hoping it would pay for itself, and she's more than done that. So that's another thing that this board is trying to do to save money, and they need to hear that.
The new dishwasher at Crockett alone is greater than her salary.
Wow, that's great.
Mr.
Yeah.
Fleener? Chad, go ahead.
I want to echo Todd's also. I said I just want to echo Todd's sentiments on that, and also thank Tawana McKinney for working hard. I know she's done a great, excellent job at that. It is actually more dividends than what I thought possible. So, the greatness of the board. Thank you.
All right, anything else there? All right, Mr. Chairman, next on the director's report is a discussion of the graduation activities. A parent of a Crockett senior has made a request to address the board on this subject, and without exception, and with your permission, Mr. Chairman, I would like to read the statement since she can't be here physically. It's just a few paragraphs.
Right, fine, go ahead.
The letter, and she did do this according to board policy. Dear Dr. Flannery and the Washington County Department of Education School Board, on behalf of some DCHS students and parents, I would like to speak on pending graduation events. As you can imagine, our seniors and their families having a front row seat to this disappointment is heartbreaking. There are so many students who have worked extremely hard to get to this stage in life. We have been extremely pleased with the education and relationships our families have had by attending Washington County schools. We understand that there are always less than perfect situations that are beyond our control. However, at this point, we respectfully implore you to be open-minded about having a traditional in-person graduation. We recently learned that Science Hill, Tennessee High, and Dobbins Bennett High schools are waiting until July to have in-person graduation. As per attached, we are within reason to hold graduation without delay. We ask that Washington County lead the charge and plan on a June graduation before summer temperatures are too hot. We feel this can be done and still follow CDC and Tennessee government guidelines. Some of our thoughts include hold the event at Crockett's football field. Our stadium is large enough to accommodate for safe distances. Families can sit separately. If there are too many people, divide the class and have two ceremonies that include virtual viewing for those who do not want to attend due to heat or decision to stay distanced. Use the money saved from renting a venue to have large viewing screens so people can also sit in their vehicle if they choose to watch. A second option would be to poll students with options by electronic survey or email to get their opinion and seek help from parents to tally responses. A third item, don't rush a decision on virtual. We would rather wait if there's a better chance of an in-person ceremony. If we must wait until July, it is suggested early morning before it gets too hot if it has to be outdoors. And finally, find a larger venue indoors, for example, Freedom Hall or East Tennessee State's Mini Dome is the last option. This was submitted by Crockett parent Kathleen Petretta. Mr. Chairman, secondary supervisor Ashley Keys and both high school principals Peggy Wright and Tim Campbell are with us. They and a host of individuals from both high schools have been putting together a plan to to honor and recognize the class of 2020 in this era of school closure. All three are online with us right now. I will turn it over to them. Ashley, I suspect you're leading this presentation, and they will walk us through and talk us through what they have planned.
Okay, in BOE Connect, I put a link to a Google Doc so that you could open it and look at it. It's not much different than the last time we presented. So following the Tennessee Department of Education's guidance for high school graduation ceremonies, and I'll link to that guidance so that you could look through it. It's about 3 pages long. And our Northeast Tennessee Regional Health Director, Dr. Kierske's safety recommendation, both high schools would like to prepare for a student graduation parade, mini ceremonies in the high school gyms. These ceremonies would be recorded, and each graduate would receive a graduation DVD of all mini ceremonies. Now, seniors at Crockett wanted their parade to be on May the 16th. Peggy has been in contact with the town of Jonesboro, and she found out that you have to give 3 months notice, and so they are going to try to waive that requirement, and Peggy's available if you want to ask questions about that. So it's looking like it's probably going to be June. Mr. Campbell, he believes that they can do theirs on May the 16th in gray, following the gray parade route, and he's also available if you have questions about that parade. Now for the ceremonies themselves, it will take 4 to 5 days at each high school to bring seniors through in groups of 10 with their families. The families would be seated on the gym floor so that they would be able to see it very well and up close. They would be social distance. They could bring up to 6 guests per graduate in groups of 10. And so we would not have more at any time than 100 in the gym. You can see the safety procedures below that. Everyone would be required to wear facial coverings and abide by social distancing protocol at all times. That means if parents show up early for a ceremony that might be scheduled next, they would need to wait in their vehicles until it's time to come in. Seating on the gym floor would be clearly marked for families. We would clean that seating after every ceremony, and also the restrooms after every ceremony. We have drawn routes on maps for each of the high schools so that you do not have cross traffic with entrance and exits. And I talked to Sergeant Reap, and he said that we would have 2 school resource officers for each of those days at both of our high schools. It will cost us approximately $1,500 to record those sessions and make the DVDs. That's just the cost of the DVDs. Bob St. John said that he thinks that he can get it all done with 10 graduates. It would be 26 clips probably for Crockett that he would have to put together, probably 32 clips at Boone because they have a larger graduating class. And all of this follows our current safety regulations. So we should be able to do this under our state's guidance right now.
Any questions from the board for Dr. Keys or either principal?
Is this not what Daniel Boone and DB are doing in July? Aren't they splitting them up? Isn't that what I read in the paper?
Boone.
Not Daniel Boone, Dobbins Bennett.
Something to that effect, yes.
But they're just waiting till July, but they're still social distancing with about 10 to 12 kids.
Yes, ma'am. I have been in contact with every area superintendent. Nobody is scheduling a traditional big crowd type of a graduation. Everybody is planning something that observes social distancing. No 2 school systems are doing the same thing. Many are waiting well into the summer. Some are doing it pretty soon. We heard just moments ago that at least one system is waiting till well into August to do a graduation. So there's really no pattern to it.
Chad, you have something?
Yes, is Mr. St. John, is he just a 10-month employee, or is he a 12 employee?
10 months.
Appropriate right now, but I think the pay extra months with this, is that an appropriate time?
You're cutting out. Say it again.
Chad, if you turn off your video, it might slow down your bandwidth, and it might speed up your bandwidth so that we can hear you.
Say it again.
Can you hear me now? I said, Mr. Son, in the month, he's,
No.
is it a, and how much would him for the other two?
Send us a text.
I think I'm picking up on your intent, Mr. Fleener. It would be appropriate to set aside some money by way of a stipend for Mr. St. John for all of his efforts.
I'd like to ask,
Go ahead, Mary Lou.
I'd like to ask Ms. Wright and Mr. Campbell if they feel that maybe a traditional one where there were even more inside a gym or in the stadiums, are they not comfortable with that? Because we've had a lot of parents contact us wanting a traditional. I'd like to hear what you feel, is both of you feel. If you don't mind putting you on the spot, sorry. Did they hear me?
Go right ahead.
Well, okay, so I've been contacted mostly by students, and can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, and of course they're just wanting to know what is it we're going to do. They want to know, is there going to be a ceremony? Is there not? And I've assured them that you all were considering our options. In a perfect world, we would be having our big, huge ceremonies like we normally would, but they're not there. So I'm looking at what Dr. Flannery is looking at, and the same thing Dr. Keys is looking at with our restrictions of how many people we can safely have together and stay within the health guidelines. I think that I know that the students would like, and the parents too, would like to have more people there. I just know that that's difficult to do under the guidelines. Best case scenario might be to have it outside. You could have maybe more people and have more people spread apart.
Then you have to have a plan B for bad weather, though. That's always an option, but yeah.
Yes, you do.
All right.
Absolutely.
Let me ask you this. Plan B, if it rains, we get wet.
Well,
That's the way I feel about it.
if there's a thunderstorm or
We'll stop till the thunder's over.
Dr. Flannery, what has our health department said about all of this?
Thank you. Ms. Buchanan has asked what the health department has recommended. I talked to Dr. David Kursky, the medical director of the regional health department. I asked him if a public event were scheduled for July, what would have to happen between now and then for the event to be held safely. I have his answer here. He said, virtual, he said, tough question. Virtual is the safest option, but obviously has drawbacks. I have been thinking about a drive-through event where each family drives up to receive the diploma. That may require a person with PPE actually handing the diploma into the car, but the principal and other officials would not need PPE as long as they maintain distance. He said it's unclear whether large gatherings will be recommended even by July. We will have to see what happens if we relax social distancing. We may have a surge and be shut down again. In a meeting that I had with him and other superintendents had with him this week, he indicated that Vanderbilt University has conducted a study that indicates that we will have a surge in about 6 weeks' time, which would put us in about the end of June.
So that's what I'm afraid of. I'm afraid of right now we can get 100 people in something, but if we have a surge, we may take it back to 25.
So,
Well,
Go ahead.
Like everybody else on this board, you've gotten the emails and people wanting traditional. And I mean, me personally, I'd like to see as close to traditional as we can possibly do. And if we were to set a date in, say, July, and for whatever reason, whether there's a surge in cases and you can't do it, or weather is bad, it's an all or nothing, and it's a gamble. But if the students are okay with that, to me, you could have your traditional somehow, some way, or you could have nothing. And that's kind of where I'd like to see it go, and that's just my one opinion, is I'd like to see something set up to do, but knowing you could get absolutely nothing.
It's a big gamble though, isn't it?
Well, I'm like you, Todd. I'm in favor of waiting until last of June, middle of July, somewhere in that range, because I want to see the kids have their graduation. I sat and watched the universities today and watched my daughter, and it was a joke, an absolute joke. So I'm not gonna sit here on this board and not support my kids not to get to have a graduation. So,
Well, here's a question. Instead of all or nothing, is there any way we could, if we planned for sometime in June, well, end of June or July, and that fell through, we couldn't still do this?
Not in July, because we start school that next week.
Well, I mean, okay.
Possibly start school that next week.
you know,
Because a lot of planning went into this, and I appreciate that. And I think this.
Mr. Chairman,
yeah,
sorry.
go ahead, Chad.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Mary Beth.
That's okay. No, it's done.
Can you all hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah. For now.
I would like for us to go ahead with this first trip that some kid
You're cutting out.
maybe going in the military or whatever.
You're cutting out, Chad. Anybody else have anything to say? Annette?
Mr. Campbell, we didn't hear from you if you want to give your input. Sorry.
Well, I mean, obviously, every one of us would prefer to have the traditional, but Dr. Keys, Ms. Wright, and myself put together a list of things that would have to happen, and there are many obstacles to having the traditional graduation. For example, if we have 3,000 seats in our football stadium, but if we can only sit every third row like the guidelines say, that cuts it to 1,000. So then we have 317 graduates. That's a total of 3 guests. Well, what if a family has 2 other siblings? Now one of them can't come. So there are a lot of obstacles to the traditional, and we're for our kids. That's the biggest thing. We love our kids, and we wouldn't be in this, but ultimately it's going to have to be your all's and Dr. Flannery's decision, and we'll make whatever you decide work.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Dr. Keys, have you worked with our student board members in any of this?
Sorry, I couldn't get unmuted. I asked the high school principals to consult their student leadership teams so they can speak to that. And I just wanted to say that we did a count of Crockett Stadium, and they can only seat 2,000. So we would barely fit 2 guests to graduate under the current social guidelines.
Well, if it boiled down to 2 guests, then we could say closer into the time, you can only bring 2 or 3 guests. But if they lift the sanctions, and if we can go to Bristol Motor Speedway and have a race in June, like they say they're going to happen, we ought to be able to have a graduation. So,
Well, I think that's what you've looked into is a larger venue, and ETSU is not going to be accommodating for the their facility, are they?
They will not allow us to come to them.
Okay.
Chad?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate Ashley and Mr. Campbell and Ms. Wright's hard work on this. I mean, there's no doubt how much phone calls and everything you all got to have to go this over. I would like to see us go through, and I don't know if you want this to be a motion, Mr. Chairman, but I'd like to see us go ahead with this virtual graduation. We would have that and go ahead and plan to have a regular graduation at the end of July, the 25th and 24th, or whatever that day may be, for one at one school, one at the other. and then our July board meeting, you know, that'll be on probably the 9th, that we could actually go forth and either say, yes, we're gonna go forth with it, or the guidelines are still too strict. But I'm like you, Mr. Chairman, if Dollywood opens, or if they have a race up at Bristol, and we didn't try our very best, I mean, we just don't know, but I'm not willing to throw it away just yet.
So you want to do both?
I would, yes, because if somebody does go out of town for a job, for, you know, the military or whatever, at least they could get this graduation, virtual graduation done, so everybody could participate.
And
But
would have a record of their.
yes,
Right.
but the majority could end up having a regular traditional, you know, graduation at the end of July, and these families could still see. I mean, it may be the only time some of them ever graduate anything, you know, is high school. And I just hate to say no, you know, May 7th, when we still have 3 months, you know, before the new school, or actually 4 months before the new school year starts. And we just don't know what we don't know, you know, even by the end of this month.
Okay, I have a question. The virtual is gonna be 1,500. I'm sorry, did you?
No, go ahead.
Okay, the virtual is 1,500. What it would be the cost for having the other? It wouldn't be that much if we had it on air facility, or air properties, would it?
We would have to rent a stage. We can get that locally. I'm told today that we do have public address systems already in hand that are sufficient for this. We'd have to rent some chairs. I mean, there'd be some cost. It'd be a few thousand, but it wouldn't be.
And then probably security and things like that.
We would need to pay some officers. We'd need police presence. There'd be some expense, about like it used to be when we were at the schools.
Well,
Okay, so we've said the Bristol race is planning on going on. When is that?
They're gonna have, I heard it on the radio this morning, they're gonna try to bring the race in and run a race in June. And then they're gonna have another race in August.
So wouldn't we be better off doing it mid-June, later in June?
I don't think they're allowing fans in the June race.
No, they're not
they're
in the
not?
June
Okay.
race. They're not.
Sorry.
But there'll be a bunch of people there. Anyway, but still, and it's
Mr.
outside.
Chairman?
Yeah, Mitch, go ahead.
If I'm on, yeah, this is an important thing for our seniors, and we don't want to slight them any. I've reached out to some other surrounding school systems who actually did surveys of their families as to what their preference was, a virtual or a live graduation. And it was overwhelmingly in excess of 80% of them in favor of having a live graduation, even if it was later in the year. I can't imagine that our demographics in our families, our populations would be much different. I think we ought to go ahead and move forward with the creating the video, especially for those that may be leaving the area. It won't be available in either June or July to participate in live graduation. But I think we should go ahead and plan for a live graduation in one or both of those months. And if we passed some of the social distancing requirements, then we have it. And if we don't, we fall back and finish up with the rest of the graduation process.
Maybe.
I realize I like Chad's idea, and I'd like to second it. I know it's gonna be a whole lot more work. I can't second it. He did make a motion,
Chad
did
made
he?
a motion. He said,
He said if it'd be okay.
If
He
it'd
never
be-
Oh, I'm
said-
sorry. I thought you made a motion. Did you make a
If
motion?
he did, we should have been having the second a long time
If
ago.
you say that, Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion that we go ahead with this virtual graduation and plan on having a group at the end of the class. We'll discuss our work.
Well, I I'd like to second, but I would like to say this is going to be a lot more planning for our supervisor, our secondary supervisor, and both principals, but I agree with everyone else. This is what the families want, and I think we need to try to give, just to see, just to keep it on, like Chad said, on the back burner, and just see if that's something that could happen.
When is summer law?
Starts the 17th, which is on Thursday, I think, and goes
Okay,
to that Sunday.
that's Saturday, Sunday.
17th through the 21st.
Chad?
I just wanted to say, I thought about the summer law too, and if they let 500 of us go down there to summer law, then, the fairgrounds may be a possibility, but I don't want to talk about possibilities. I just think we need to keep this open to make sure that we at least give it the benefit of the doubt. And I apologize to Ms. Campbell and Ms. Wright and Dr. Keys as well. I know you've all worked the hardest and tried to cross all the T's, dot all the I's. I really wish we were four board members weighed in on this, because, this is their legacy. This is them. This is the kind of decision I really wish they were available, that we could lean on them.
So I have a question for Dr. Key. If something happens in June and they, all the protocol is done and it opens up, how hard would it be to, our board meeting, get a date and have it done? So if it recreates itself in July, that we would have the graduation done. Do you understand?
If all social distancing is removed, is that what you're saying?
Yes, if it comes to where we can have graduation in June, how hard would it be to have everything together and ready to go as soon as the ban is lifted, so we could make the arrangements so that we can get it in?
I think it would rely on renting a stage and all of that stuff and finding out if it's available and getting it set up. We could do the work behind the scenes pretty quickly. It's just making sure that we can rent everything that we need, right, Peggy and Tim?
Right.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, could we clarify the motion? Mr. Fleener, is your motion to go ahead with every plan that Dr. Keys and the administrators have already put in motion, plus an in-person event in July?
Yes, sir. I'd like to go ahead with the virtual graduation as planned.
And
at
there's
both
a
schools.
parade as well in there. There's actually 2 events that are already in motion. There's
Yes.
a parade in there as well. Okay.
Yeah. And also have a graduation on the 24th and 25th of July. And we would discuss it again on our July 9th board meeting, which would be the first, it'd actually be the second Tuesday, but I just didn't know if we would have a July board meeting 2 days before the 4th.
All right. There are a great many decisions that must be made that really can't wait until July. One question that I would have is, how many guests will each senior get to bring? Because we cannot allow 3,000 people to come. We don't have the capacity.
We don't even know what we won't know till July. There's things opening up every day. That's my thinking is we don't know what it's going to look like in July or even June, like Ms. Buchanan said. I'm just leaving the option open. I'm not shutting the door on a real graduation just yet, is basically what I'm saying. But I want to say though too, that if everything's still in check and we can't have any we got to have social distancing and face coverings and stuff like that in July, then it may not be possible. But the virtual graduation's already done. But if it is open, I don't want to see us take that away from them if there's that opportunity.
If the social distancing protocol is still in place, will we be requiring masks of all guests? Or will we be taking the temperature of everybody that
I
participates?
think we need to take temperatures at the door.
For the game?
I don't know.
Well, you decide that when you get there. I mean, there's a lot of ifs and buts here that you're not gonna be able to solve right now. I think Chad's exactly right. You go ahead and tentatively plan for a July graduation. The administration, Dr. Flannery, your office, your team figures out how to solve these problems.
Well, if we say July the 25th is gonna be graduation, and we wait till our board meeting in July to decide how many kids or how many parents or how many people can come per student, and then relay that to the seniors. Annette?
I think how many people per needs to be left up to your principals, because if they print tickets for each person, they know how many people they have in their family. And so they need to be
we need to set the people.
Well, they can only have 1,000, and Peggy said, how many could you have?
If they don't lift it.
Right.
All right, how many you gonna put around the ball field? You're gonna set 1,000 in the seats. How many you gonna put around it? There's a lot of more space down there than just sitting in the seats.
You mean folding
Well, I
chairs
wouldn't
or?
think-
Folding chairs.
I wouldn't think you would do anything but the stadium.
Well, I mean, look at a football game. Look at everybody standing around. Look at everybody standing behind.
Well, we do have the movable bleachers.
That's right too. We can take bleachers and set up on the field. More bleachers at Ridgeview and Grandview. So, David, go ahead.
Well, my question is, if you're going to have it in July, is there an earlier date? Because, I mean, I know they'll put together whatever and they'll do a great job, but you've got the teachers and the administrators starting back to school that week, I'm thinking,
And we don't know.
or getting ready to. So I'm just trying to think of both sides here.
Administrators come back on July the 22nd. The new teachers begin on July the 24th.
I mean, it's just something to consider. If you're going to do that, we ought to look at an earlier date. I know that may interfere with people's vacations, but you're going to have people, even though they may not start college till mid-August to late August, there's going to be some travel time in there. I just think we need to look at every time option there. That's really going to be hectic on the administrators and the teachers. Just a thought.
I think the reason they're looking, I understand what you're saying, Dave, but I think the reason they're looking late July is just to try to put it back as far as possible to have that better option that it happens.
Yeah, and I understand that, and this is one of those situations, again, that we've said for 2 months. We're just, it's almost a day-by-day thing, but then again, you do need to plan this one weeks ahead. But anyway.
I would ask Mr. Flanger if that date is set in concrete, or do you move it back a week?
Weeks ahead.
Really and truly, Mitch, the only reason why I said the 24th and 5th, I've heard some other systems talking about their 24th, the 25th, which is that Saturday. That's pretty much the drop dead last time that you can have it before you're having it the weekend before school starts. That's the only reason why the 25th, the 24th is what I mentioned. I mean, I'm up for anything other than just canceling it, on May 7th and saying, sorry, we're just going to move on. And I really want to hold out, and that's the only reason why I'm saying the last weekend in July is just for a simple fact of, that gives us plenty of time to see what happens. We just don't know what we don't know.
Well, could we have to decide?
Let me ask you this. So I mean, would you be okay with that date moving earlier in July, and maybe Dr. Wright, maybe our principals and Dr. Flannery could chime in on what would be a more effective date or a better date to kind of solve Mr. Hammond's concern?
Yes, I'm fine with that. I mean, I'm fine with the 10th and 11th, which is 2 weeks earlier, the weekend after the 4th, and I'm fine with that. I want to buy us some time. The only thing is when will we make a decision whether or not we can move forward with this, and what's it going to look like? It's going to be sometime in June, and I'm fine with that. That's fine with me.
I'll be out of town the 4th through the 11th of July.
It'll have to be after that, then.
Maybe Boone can go first and we'll go second. Yeah, I just had to change things today. Same reason, had to change from a June vacation to July because of where we're staying. They're not going to allow people on the beach necessarily.
Right.
I'm wondering if we could not move it to June, and I say that maybe if we're going to think of something, and again, I know that's still going to limit maybe how many students can bring, how many guests, I'm not sure. So, that way it gets it in, if we're going to do something that's, I guess, semi-live, and have smaller groups come in, I don't know. Tim Campbell, your thoughts?
Well, the reason that first, the July 25th or 25th thing, the reason we thought about pushing it back that far was obvious because of waiting as long as we could. But the other thing was, and it's kind of the opposite of what Mr. Hammond said, they're not arguing against him, but if it's that close to school starting, we were thinking that, Peggy and other people that go on vacations would, have their vacations over and they'd be back in town. And then, more students would be there. All of our faculty would be there, which, most of them want to see our kids graduate anyway. So that's why we were thinking closer, farther into July, because we definitely don't want to do it. Athletic dead period is the last week of June and the first week of July. And that's when we tell our athletes and their families a year in advance to plan your vacations. That way it doesn't interfere with practice and all of those things. So those families have already made vacation plans for those 2 weeks. And so, we're trying to work around all of those things that were preset, a year in advance.
Ms. Wright, what would be your thoughts of that late July weekend?
Well, unlike the rest of you, the longer we wait, maybe the less restrictions we'll have from the health officials, and maybe students will be able to have a larger gathering. I'm fine with that. I really am.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm like the rest of us. I just want to see our kids get as much as we can possibly give them.
Do you think we could get it done in one day and do it on the 25th? It'd be just like at the schools.
Sure.
Have it in the morning, have it after dinner or at dinner time with the next high school.
I was going to say, we would want to try to avoid weather because it's going to be really hot in July. Right. And students and families in their dress clothes and those graduation gowns, you know how hot it was in Crockett and Boone's gyms when we used to do it there, how hot it would get. And so I think spacing it, doing it over 2 days and possibly at night might be a better option, or early morning.
We're going to have a better chance on thunderstorms at night or in the evenings. So, it don't bother me to get wet, so whatever.
I have 2 more things I need to say. Bob St. John is sending me some stuff. He's watching live right now, and he's the guru at graduation. He said that we need to make sure that if we do this, that guests are in the stands. It's way too hard to regulate if they're standing around or they're in seats. At a graduation ceremony, they need to be in the stands. And I did not include in my budget programs and other things that we would need for graduation, just the DVDs. And so he reminded me of that.
So what if we schedule one date in June and a date in July, so at least our families would know when we were trying to do it? And at that point, they can mark those weekends off. And then if we can open it up in June, we can do it in June, and if not, we can do it in July. Does that make sense? Would that make, that way they could at least mark it off on their calendars.
Well, I kind of like Mr. Campbell's idea. You've already got our employees is back, their vacations is over with, that does make pretty good sense that they're already here.
But as Peggy said, they're pushing everybody, they're not letting you come during June, they're pushing you into July.
Well, his deal is in July. We said it in July, we have it in July. And July the 24th and 5th is graduation. And in between now and the 1st of July, we'll decide on how many, we'll watch the restrictions, and if we need to let one person bring 4 people, that's all it's going to be. Sorry, but that's all we can let go in there.
And then in between time, we can see what other area systems are deciding to do too.
I really don't care.
Well, I
This
know,
is my
but if they're-
opinion. I don't care about the other systems. I care about Washington County, and let's do it. Let's do it. Let's just say 6, 5, 10, whatever. Let's do it. July the 27th or 25th, 4th and 5th is graduation. I'll put that in the form of a motion.
We haven't voted on the
Okay, I got
first
a
one
motion
yet.
on Mr. Fleener. Do I have a second?
I second
You
it.
second it.
So my question is, if you cannot have it that weekend, or you're done, it's that weekend or nothing.
Well, the only way we're not gonna have it is somebody's gonna tell us social distancing, we can't have that group of people in there. Is that not what I'm seeing?
It will still be up to the board. The health department does not have the authority to tell you that you can't have a public graduation. It will still be a decision of Washington County Schools. The governor himself can't tell the school system we can't have graduation.
Well,
There will have to be a circuit breaker in place. Somebody in this school system will have to say, yes, we can do it, or no, we can't.
and
But again, if it's in July, it's that or nothing, correct?
David?
Any way we could make this decision the night of the budget, put it on the agenda, and let this kind of sink in with everybody and see if there's any more options, because there's several predictions. The predictions are a lot of the states are going to pull their restrictions up between May 30th and June 15th. And then you've got that group that says, okay, they're going to do what they can in June, even though there's some resorts that are not going to open, and the surge will hit back in July and August. Now, I don't know what the doctor from the health department's predicting, but there's several predictions out there. I'm just saying that maybe put this decision off to our budget meeting, and we hash out the details, let it sink in. If there's anything to be added, and we make that decision. I think next week we're having a budget meeting. Or
So you're talking about just the traditional one, but go ahead and vote on this because Daniel Boone was gonna have their great parade May 16th.
well, I thought it was said that they were going to go ahead and go through with this.
Well, did we vote on?
They don't need approval.
We don't
to
need
do what they've
approval.
already planned.
All right,
I'm
whatever.
looking at your policy, and it doesn't require board approval. They
Okay.
can continue with that. If you want a public graduation, the motion needs to be held.
I'm just saying maybe look, are there dates in June that could be looked at? I'm not saying, I'm not trying to lobby for any particular date. I'm just saying, let's look at every avenue possible before we make a concrete decision tonight, because there's so many ifs, ands, or buts with this.
You can move to postpone until the next time the board gathers. That's an option.
Chad, do you want to make a motion that, or you want to hold off on your motion till to our next board meeting? When we set it later on tonight?
You really need a motion to postpone,
Okay.
if that's the pleasure of the board.
Does anybody want to make a motion that we postpone this till the,
Everything, or
Just the graduation.
The motion, postpone the motion.
well,
That won't stop the parade, and that won't stop the vigil.
Okay,
It won't
will not,
stop the virtual, well, then, yeah, I can make that motion.
alright. Do I have a second?
Second.
Well,
Okay.
whatever happened to his motion?
It's basically being postponed.
Okay. So
I
he
have
was fine with it.
Can I get a roll call vote on postponing this till we set up board meeting?
Mr. Chairman, your audio is real garbled. Could you repeat what the motion is and who seconded it?
The motion is to hold off on setting the date and stuff on the in-person graduation till, we set our board meeting when we talk about the budget. And Mary Beth made the motion to do that. Annette seconded it. We're still gonna have the virtual graduation and the parade and stuff.
Well, do we vote on that, or is that a given? I mean, have we already decided to do the virtual graduation?
Mr. Meredith, the board policy that governs graduation activities, 4.707, this board does not reserve to itself the authority to approve these activities.
Okay.
The only thing you're doing is wanting to, as a board, have a public graduation. And the motion would be to put that decision off until the next time you convene.
Is that okay?
I understand the motion. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else?
Can I comment on that?
Yeah.
I understand what Mr. Hammond's wanting to do, and I mean, and I don't know any more than anybody else. I mean, you know, I don't even know if it's gonna rain tomorrow for sure or not. But I do know that just a little week since last Tuesday when we had our budget meeting and we had just a 10-minute conversation on graduation, that's what's brought on these upset feelings because nobody knows where we stand. And the longer we put it off, the more uncertainty people are going to be when I'd rather just make it, you know, say this is what we're going to do and we hope it changes, but there's no guarantee. But it's done, you know what I'm saying? We're taking a stand and we're, you know, trying to do what's best, but we're not saying, well, we're going to talk about it next week or we're going to talk about, you know, the June board meeting. That's the only thing I'm saying is anytime we have uncertainty, that's when everybody goes, you know, they want to know.
Colin?
I agree with Chad. I think we need to give these families a little bit of a heads up, a guidance. Pick a date, let's do it, and that way if they want family to come in and they plan a celebration, they can do that, but let's give them a date. Let's stop putting it off. We make things so much harder than they should be. And also, I would think, you know, if we're gonna set a date, we need to be reserving stages and chairs and stuff like that, that we're gonna need. So Dr. Flannery needs some guidance so he can start following through with it, not putting it off another week or more.
Mitch?
Yeah, I'm going to vote no to defer this. And I'm going to hope that we'll come back and set June the 20th, and then the last Saturday of July is those dates. And we set that in stone, or we direct staff to determine a process and a plan to meet either one of those, and then we can discuss it further and we can change it later if we need to. So.
Ashley?
Ron Gill is watching and he's emailing me and he wants me to ask that if we move forward with traditional, if we could split it into 2 sessions so that they could bring more guests.
Well, I think that's something that you all can work out as an administrative team.
I'd like to actually say that those 4 student board members need to be, you know, right up there with whatever decision this, you know, that we do for graduation, because, I mean, this is the time where their input is, I mean, they're living. So I'd like to see those 4, you know, whatever we do from this point on for the planning cycle is them 4 to be involved in that.
Mr. Hammonds?
Well,
I agree. I'd like to have the 4 student board members input, and I agree we do need to decide something, but this is just a situation that you don't know until you get up closer what you're going to do. Like I said, it's unknown, but I'm good if you all want to set a date of June 20th and then have an alternate of sometime in July. It's just an unusual situation, but anyway, I would like to have the 4 board members, the student board members input.
I agree with Mr. Meredith, Mr. Hammond, like I said before, if you set a date in June and we can't accommodate that, move it to July. Because if there's a surge comes back in July and it's all or nothing, they don't deserve nothing. They deserve something. And I know we're just kind of continuing to roll this around, but if you would do, you know, 1 in June and 1 in July, I would be glad to take my second away.
Well, I'll take my motion away. Go back to your original.
Bob, you put that in a motion of June the 20th and July the 25th?
We've got a motion on the table. Can I amend it?
Were you able to pull that motion?
No, because it automatically does that, so I'll have to create.
You propose an amendment to a motion?
Ashley?
Yeah, but
Bob St. John emailed me, and if we're going to do traditional graduations, we need 2 dates, one for each school, because he would live stream it for families to watch, and he has to move all of that equipment. So there's no way to move it quickly between one school and the next.
Technology will need time to move the audio.
How do we do that in a normal graduation, where we do one in the morning and another in the evening? Oh, it's all at one location, right?
Yes.
Well, it used to not be.
Well, we didn't have around stage, we had interior stage, and we had
Okay.
audio systems.
I'd like to amend Chad's motion, and I would like to see us put on the calendar, June the 20th, or the 19th and 20th, and July the 24th and 25th.
I second that.
Are your motions getting a little backed up?
You've got a main motion,
I amended it.
and now you've got an amendment to the motion with a second. And you need to decide
We
on
had
that
a motion to
amendment.
postpone.
What was
I
the July,
withdrew.
what was the July?
Oh,
24th,
that.
25th.
Okay, I have a motion, amendment to the motion to have it June the 19th and 20th and July the 24th and 25th. I have a second. I'm going to ask for a roll call vote on that amendment.
Ready?
Yep.
Mr. Day,
Yes.
Mr. Hammond,
Yes.
Ms. Dellinger,
Yes.
Mr. Fleener,
Yes, ma'am, thank you.
Ms. Buchanan,
Yes.
Mr. McLean,
Yes.
Mr. Ganger,
Aye.
Mr. Meredith,
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Irvin.
Okay. Now, now we're going to vote on the motion as amended to go through with the virtual plus have a traditional graduation on one of those dates, or June or July. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Day,
Yes.
Mr. Hammond,
Yes.
Ms. Dellinger,
Yes.
Mr. Fleener,
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Buchanan,
Yes.
Mr. McLean,
Yes.
Mr. Ganger,
Aye.
Mr. Meredith,
Mitch, you there?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't hear, yes.
Mr. Irvin.
Aye. Motion passes.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I hate to kick a dead horse. I really, really do.
Because it ain't gonna get up.
Do you really?
I really hate this.
I'll
But I
bring
also-
tobacco, I'll bury it.
Mr. St. John, I want to, I mean, what's appropriate? I don't know what appropriate is, but he's gonna work June and July on both these deals and May to get all this finished. I mean, Todd, one of you senior board members, and Mr. McLean, somebody help me out. What's the stipend? I'd be happy to second it, but I think he does need to be paid, you know, for what he's doing.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
At this time, I would recommend that the director come back to us at either our next meeting or the June meeting with a recommendation on that exact issue.
I think so too.
He said he'd be happy to do so. So consider it done.
Thank you, Mr. McLean.
Anybody else on graduation? Okay. You good?
There's a great many questions yet to be answered that will need to be addressed the next time the board has it on the agenda. We'll do that when the board has it on the
Can you
agenda.
send us out those questions? Or is it too many to send?
No, I've sent them out.
Okay.
All right, last thing under other, thank you, Ashley and Tim and Peggy for all your help.
Yes,
So,
thank you all.
We're done unless y'all just want to listen to the rest of it.
Thank you.
Okay. Board members, Joe Wilson of the Brokers Realty and Auction contacted me this week to discuss progress on the sale of the retired Boones Creek Middle School building and property. Having shown it multiple times to potential buyers, no offers have been tendered. Mr. Wilson is recommending that the board reconsider the asking price.
Can you tell me what the asking price is now? I don't.
To me.
To me.
Mr. Ganger?
I guess my question will be, I mean, it said you sold it to multiple people. I mean, are they not saying make an offer? You know, I mean, they're telling us to drop the price. I mean, are they working for us and encouraging that, hey, you know, make an offer?
I can only tell you what Joe said. After touring the building, 9 people, prospective buyers, have toured the building. Each of them, if I'm understanding Mr. Wilson correctly, are interested in the building and doing something actually with the structure. All of them are saying that at that price, renovations would be too costly.
Yeah, I would like you to go back to him and ask for, you know, ask them to make an offer. Make us an offer. Just make us an offer.
I'd like to know when his contract's out.
I think a year.
Is it a year on
I
it?
believe y'all gave me a year.
Well, I'm in favor of leaving it alone. Everything's went to pot around COVID-19, and I feel like we've only had it on the market for what, 4 months?
And it costs us money.
$8,000 a month.
Well, I'd like to see if we can't cheapen that $8,000 a month up. Turn the hour way high, or I mean, turn it off. I just feel like we need to set on it a little bit. I feel like it's worth. David? Go ahead, David.
Did Mr. Wilson have a recommendation of a price to lower it or a percentage?
He did. He recommended, and I don't think he'd care for me to say this in an open meeting, he recommended $1.2 million.
1 point what?
$1,200,000.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Flanders,
Yes.
I got a text from somebody asking that you get a microphone closer.
I'm gonna have to, I mean, I'm using the same mic as everybody else, I'm just gonna have to get it. Broadcast.
Sorry for the interruption, Mr. Chairman.
I'll be loud enough now.
Well, I'm still, I don't know, Mr. Ganger?
I think in your update, or something you put that Mr. Wilson might be available by phone call right now.
Yes, he is available, I believe, right now, and we can get him on the phone, I think.
I'd ask that we get him on the phone, because I mean, I don't want hypothetical answers. I mean, and nothing against you, but I mean, I want him to be able to answer some questions if the board has them, because I got one I'd like to ask him.
As it happens, Mr. Bailey has Mr. Wilson's phone number, he has this too, anticipating this.
Jim.
Just what's like that.
He's not gonna answer.
Hello?
Hello?
4 2 3 4 4 4.
I'm sorry.
Not yet. I'd wait until we got to the end.
We might try later, but I did ask him if he would take a call during the board meeting, and he did respond in the affirmative, so.
Well, I guess if we can't get him tonight, I'd like this to come back up on the next agenda
On the next meeting.
and have him
Call
available so any board member could ask a question.
We can make that happen.
I'll make a motion that we defer this to our next meeting.
Okay,
Second.
Mr. Flannery says we don't need that. Is that agreeable with everybody, that we bring it up in the next board meeting?
Just put it on the next agenda.
Put it on the next agenda.
I'll withdraw my motion then.
Well, that's what we'll do.
Withdraw my second.
Okay. I'm gonna ask for a 5-minute recess. Is that okay with everybody?
Yes.
Sounds great.
All right. 5 minutes.
Unless they just want
I'm gonna bring us back in session here. Request to address the board, we done handled that, right?
We did.
It's a lot better.
Senior parent representative.
We took care of it.
Consideration of Daniel Boone High School roof. Mr. Patrick or Mr. Flannery, either one? You just thought you was done.
There is didn't we share our additional information with you?
It's in there right now.
Okay, yeah, go ahead. Well, now, that's what
Yeah.
we saw last time.
Yeah, but that's all there is. That and the
Mr. Patrick did some investigation on that company out of Charlotte, I believe, got some background information. Would you care to share that?
I really didn't understand any questions there. I couldn't hear.
Mr. Patrick, can you hear me now? I may be in this place.
I will report that the board had requested background information on Radco, the second lowest bidder. Is that correct?
Yes.
The architect, Jerry Sarton from Beeson Luskin Street and Thompson Linton, he made some contact with some folks over in North Carolina and had all very good reports, marks from past contractors, engineers, and architects. He has an A+ Better Business Bureau rating in North Carolina. He is also certified in Carlisle, Firestone, and Versico roofing systems. So he does have some very good backgrounds.
But he's coming from all the way from North Carolina. What part of North Carolina is it, Philip? Charlotte?
He is from Charlotte, North Carolina.
Mr. Patrick, question. Did we ever find out if we had a completion time in our proposed contract with Bernard for this re-roofing project?
I think the completion time was 1st of August or something like that.
So how many days are we given if we execute?
You're asking me how many days do we have on this new bid?
Right, how many days to complete?
I don't have that in front of me, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Mr. Hammonds?
Yeah, on the time frame, when we have that for a proposal, do we give them an allotment, or is there a time allotment for like as much rain as we've had recently? How do you factor that in there?
Well, I don't think we have in our contract with Bernard Roofing at the Jonesboro project what we call liquidated damages if he goes over a certain date. That is normally not included in any of our contracts, but he is virtually finished now. He's putting on the coping and is wrapping that job up as we speak.
Mr. Chairman?
Wait a minute, Mr. Ganger.
I was gonna say, I mean, I understand the rain and everything else. I understand all that with that, Mr. Bernard's company, and I appreciate him. He did reach out and email the board, and so I do appreciate that. But I don't know what's been going on there, but I went back through and looked at our updates from Dr. Flannery, and on March 27th, we were told they were 90% complete, up to 90% complete. And now here we are, May 7th, and they're wrapping up. So I mean, I don't know if we need to be as a board, need to request better updates on where we're at on these situations, or whether we want the company to update Philip Patrick on what they did the past week, what, bi-weekly, something, but this one dragged on. And I know there was a lot of rain, but it dragged on. And I have no problem with awarding Mr. Bernard's company this bid, but I think this board needs to start looking at this or getting better information for future jobs that we look at.
Chad?
Yes, I'm sorry I called in a little bit just late, but, have we, you know, the Bernard, I seen where they said August 1st on the Daniel Boone High School gymnasium roof. And has anybody made a motion to take that bid?
No, there's not been no motions made yet. David?
Well, I was getting ready to make a motion to accept Bernard Roofing for the Daniel Boone High School roof project. I was going to make a motion that we accept Bernard Roofing's bid for the gymnasium re-roofing at Daniel Boone High School.
I'll second that.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any more discussion on taking the,
Didn't he put in his letter to us what the completion date on that would be? August the 1st.
Not July 31st, but
on the roof at Daniel Boone?
Mr. Patrick?
Yes, sir.
I was just gonna say, is there any way we could put a date, get some kind of, I understand rain, can he give us some kind of date of completion? Estimated completion or something that he's at least working towards?
Yes, the last word I had from Todd Bernard is that he would finish by August 1st.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I would feel much more comfortable if Mr. Patrick and Mr. Bernard could get together and Mr. Patrick come back with contract terms that include his liquidated damages in a set term. There is provision for rain delay that you build into a contract, but that's the reason we're in the issue we are with the Jonesboro School right now, is it just wasn't contractually set up right, apparently. So I'd like to see us do that before we approve the bid.
Well,
We've already set specifications.
well, I mean, I feel like he's already said he's gonna have it done August the 1st. I accept the man's word.
Mr. Meredith's wanting damages.
Well, I don't think we can ask for damages because we don't know. I mean, we're sitting here worried about what's gonna happen with COVID-19 if we're gonna be shut down again.
Well, hey, Keith, in the construction world, there are extension of days for rain delays, for extenuating circumstances. Damages come into play if your contractor really just falls down on the job. That's what motivates it.
I think moving forward, we need to look at that in more of our contracts for sure.
Mr. Ganger?
I agree with that, and I honestly feel that if this wasn't a local company, we would not be going with this bid. And so, I mean, that's how I feel. I know a lot of board members were upset with the roofing not getting done at Jonesboro Elementary until they found out it was a local. And so, I mean, I don't care if it's local or somebody that's not. We need to hold them accountable for the work, you know, we're expecting. And if they have to do that through a better contract, and I realize this bid has went out and maybe we can't do it this time. But I remember 6 months ago saying this, that we need to do a better job, because I was questioning where they at with the roofing then. So, I mean, we need to do a better job as a board.
Mr. Patrick? He had some. Philip, you have your hand up? You're muted. Unmute you.
I'm sorry, did I understand that, somebody wants to put liquidated damages on the new contract if we sign one with, if you choose to sign one with, Bernard on the Daniel Boone project?
Philip, yes, you're correct. I think we need to have that in our contract. We need to have a date certain to provide for liquidated damages. You know, I mean, I think they can meet those parameters, but you have a provision in there that protects you from something like we've got with Jonesboro.
I understand, very much so. However, I'm not sure that we can do that now that the specifications went out without liquidated damages. I'm just not positive about how that works.
Well, how do we check with Mr. Bennett and get an answer?
Well, yeah, we probably could with Mr. Bennett, or it comes under some bid laws, because I'm sure your prices, your bids would change if liquidated damages were in the contract.
Well, can you check on that and let us know at our next meeting?
Well, sure, yeah, Mr. Bennett can tell us, probably whether or not we can assess liquidated damages to this contract.
Mr. McLean?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If y'all don't mind, let me interrupt here just a minute and tell you that this has been brought up numerous times with the architect through the years. And the stance that the architect has always taken is if you're gonna penalize that contractor, if he goes beyond the date, then if he finishes early, you're gonna have to pay him more because he finished early. And we've always been advised in staying away from that for that issue.
Philip, I unequivocally disagree with that. I've been through many construction contracts, and that's just not the case.
I didn't tell you that was my opinion. I told you that's what this board had been advised based on the architect.
I understand, but I just want to be clear that that is not accurate.
Jason?
Yeah, I mean, I just think, on what Mitch was saying, I don't disagree, but I think this roof was an emergency. I hate to put it off too much more, the way I understood it. And what Mr. McLean was saying about the architect, those architects always put liquidated damages on commercial projects. Everyone I've ever been to, they've had one on it, and I think it's just business.
Mr. Hammonds?
I agree with everything that everyone has said. Really, I agree with what Mitch has said, but I really think we need to start doing that from here on out. But I do think we'd have to go back and ask the Bernard Company to rebid theirs because we're changing the guidelines. But I didn't specifically pick them because they're a local company. I do prefer local companies, but it's not the be-all, end-all. But they've done several jobs for us before, and they've done well. And I don't want to hold them, to one job, but I do agree, Mitch, from this point forward, we need to look at that. Well, but I would go ahead and see the roof underway.
Let me make one observation on that too, though, David. We're getting ready to do 400,000. Well, the bid's less than that. We're getting ready to do $243,000 worth of work on a $2.2 million project. Now, what I'd like to hear is, do we plan on doing the rest of the roof via change orders, or will we be rebidding it?
That's a valid point.
If we do it via change orders, then we just got an issue.
I think you got to rebid the balance of the roof.
You don't have to. Phil, you got any opinion on that?
Philip Patrick?
Yeah, do you have any opinion on that?
Well, my opinion is that I would probably rebid the remainder of the roof, and set your contract as to exactly what you want it to say, whether it includes liquidated damages or not. Okay. That's just my opinion.
Okay.
Jason?
And we can, a turnaround bid on that can be real quick, but we do need to bid that in the next budget year.
If
if Scott Bennett or whoever would be the one to talk to about that feels like it's okay to negotiate that with Bernard Roofing, I don't see that Mr. Bernard or whatever his name is, would have an issue as long as we, understand rain days don't count as work days. And I don't see why he would have a problem with that whatsoever, and why he would need to go up on his price. He's already said it can be done by August 3rd. As long as we exclude rain days, I don't know why there's an issue.
I think you're correct, Mr. Day, because, there is a industry standard, and I'm sure you understand it, Mr. Day, and probably you do also, Mitch, that, the industry standard on rain days, and it's usually calculated by the National Weather Service.
Lord, we did a project down in the industrial park that took us 6 months past the expiration date because of rain days, so, yeah.
I think I'm correct in saying that there is a industry standard, am I right?
Yeah.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to take Bernard Roofing. Did you have something, Annette? You sure? I looked over. I thought you moved.
No, I put my glasses
Okay.
on.
I have a motion.
Did Mitch have an amendment to the motion, or did we just discuss it?
I guess we just discussed it. And for
Well,
future,
I'll move to amend the motion then to include liquidated damages.
I'll second that.
I think we better call Scott Bennett if it passes.
okay, we're gonna vote on the amendment on the liquidation. I have a motion and a second. Mr. Ganger, you
I
have?
can't vote on it not knowing if we can do that or not,
Well,
how do we know
Todd,
we can do
let me add, if you can't do it, then let me rephrase that motion then. Liquidated damages, assuming that we can do that without rebidding. If we can't rebid it, if we have to rebid it, then we just move forward with the contract as is.
I'll reset it.
Yeah,
Yeah, go ahead, Tom.
I can't go along with that, me personally, just because it's been bid out, it's been sent out, and we should have done it to begin with. I'm probably the least happy of the board members, but at the same time, I can't do that to him, and he did send us a letter, and he did state he could have it done by July 30 or August 1st or whatever it was, and I say my opinion is we move on from here, try to learn some lessons, and, take him for his word too, and hope he gets it done.
And I want this board to realize, everybody's saying he hasn't worked. The man may have more than one job a going, and it could be a raining in gray, a pouring rain, and he could send his boys home because they can't work, and it might not be raining a drop at Jonesboro. So
I've been down here and it
I have too, but if he's got another job going somewhere else that he's got to get done too,
We pay him for one.
we're paying him for our job, the other people's paying him for their job. Common sense. I can't go bale hay in your field and then go bale hay in his field if I don't get done with yours first. Just common sense.
That's why you give them liquidated damages, Keith. In a time.
I'm not going to tell you I'm going to vote for that or not vote for it, but
Well, let's vote, find out.
I'm asking for a vote
This is on the amendment.
on the amendment.
Ms. Buchanan? No. Mr. Day?
Yes.
Ms. Dellinger?
Yes.
Mr. Fleener?
He's asleep.
Chad, you there?
We better know him.
We've lost him. He ain't even on the screen nowhere.
Mr. Ganger,
No.
Mr. Hammond,
No.
Mr. McLean,
No.
Mr. Meredith,
Yes.
Mr. Flynn.
We've got 3 yes votes. How many yes votes do you have?
4, I haven't got Mr. Irvin's yet.
Chad, you there?
I think you moved on.
Yes.
Mr. Irvin,
No. All right, I have a motion and a second that we take, what's the name? Bernard, sorry. Bernard Roofing to do the Daniel Boone job.
Hey, Keith, did the motion to amend fail or not? You were
It
garbled.
failed.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Ms. Buchanan,
No.
Mr. Day,
Can you repeat the motion in a second? I'm sorry.
The motion is to take Bernard Roofing to do the job at Daniel Boone.
No.
Based on his.
Based on their,
that-
yes, based on their bid.
Yeah, no.
Ms. Dellinger,
No.
Mr. Fleener, still go. Mr. Ganger,
Yes.
Mr. Hammond,
Yes.
Mr. McLean,
Yes.
Mr. Meredith,
I'm going to vote, assuming that we hold them to that date and that we don't extend the roofing of the Daniel Boone project through change orders. I'll vote yes.
Mr. Irvin.
Yes. It passed. Okay, motion passes. What's next? I have lost my screen.
School board attorney.
Okay. Mr. Bennett's wanting to extend our, well, I'm gonna let Mr. Flannery explain this.
You originally contracted with Attorney Bennett for 2 years' time. Mr. Bennett is willing to extend his contract by 4 years with the same rate of pay and with the same terms. And he literally only has one demand. He wants to continue to be invited to your Christmas dinner. That's the only thing he wants. He enjoys being your lawyer and would like to continue in service to the board.
Mr. Chairman, I move for approval of his 4-year agreement.
I second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
One question for Dr. Flannery. Does our existing contract that we're extending provide us the option, or even Mr. Bennett the option to cancel the contract before the end of the term?
I believe it does, yes. But I'd have to check on that, sir.
Pardon me?
Is the contract ought to be in
Yeah, and he can pull it up here too.
here? That's the letter of engagement.
Yeah, I just couldn't remember what the original contract called for. And I didn't have time to look it up, so.
This isn't contract, this is just his letter of engagement. The contract, I thought we had that downloaded. We'll find him.
Mr. Ganger, you had a question?
Well, it's gonna depend on what we find out here. I mean, I don't know, I'll say it, I don't know why we'd go into a 4-year contract on this, unless we are able to get out for any reason.
I guess if I may speak, Mr. Chairman, the only reason I can think of we would do that would be that he's holding that same price, for the 4 years, and his cost is far less, as I understand it, than the previous one we had.
And I think he's done a great job. I know, myself, when I've talked to him, he mentions the staff calls him all the time with questions. I'm sure, Brad Hale can account for that, so, yeah.
Yeah, I talk to him quite regularly, actually.
Chad, you have something?
Yes, I just want to say, Scott Bennett has been a great help for me when I've called and asked him things. I mean, he does a good job of answering on weekends, mornings, nights, anytime. I'm sorry I got kicked off the meeting and just now got back on, but I think he's done a wonderful job for us.
Mr. Ganger?
Well, I do got, this is on the subject, but it has nothing to do with the contract.
Board members, I have Mr. Bennett on the phone, and I asked if either party had the option of withdrawing from the contract during the life of the contract, and he replied in the affirmative. We do. Any other questions while I have Mr. Bennett on the phone?
Well, I'd like to know what the purpose is of the 4 years then. Is it just strictly to lock him in of that price for 4 years, or is there other reason he wants a 4-year contract with us?
Is there any rationale, Scott, behind the 4-year contract, or is it just, okay, he said that's just the maximum length of time any board can enter into, and that's just what he put it at. No,
We got the approved 4-year contract for him.
I didn't catch that.
You're cutting out, Chad.
Never mind.
Okay, Annette?
I just want to say, I had to go into court and testify, and of course, he does do our TS, whatever that is, but he was there in court for me to just make sure and guide me and help me, and I really appreciated that, because I had never been in a courtroom to have to testify in my life. And I just appreciate that support, because he didn't have to be there, but he came all the way to Greenville just to be there for me. And of course David was there too. So, I mean, that was, for me, that's above and beyond your contract. And it just says a lot for him.
Mr. Hammonds?
Well, I was gonna say what Annette said, but also, Chad hit the nail on the head. He's there day or night. But when you have other systems attorney, like Annette and I dealt with at the other case, and they said he's that Mr. Bennett's one of the most well-versed attorneys in the state on education, he's certainly proven that, I think. Even TSBA will get him to speak at their conferences. So I think he's served us well.
Mr. Ganger?
One statement I want to make is, he is the board's attorney. He's not individual's attorney. And I got a problem with this board always calling him individually, and whether it's to work an angle or to find a way around, or I do not agree with it, and I know it's happened. And the board's attorney, if we have a question for him, it should go through the chairman, and the chairman should be asking the question. The board should get the answer, not individual board members. Any question that goes to him about Washington County Board of Education should be shared with the board, and it is not. And so that's one thing I want to see changed.
Well, Todd, or if I can speak.
Yeah, go ahead, Chad.
Todd, I don't mean nothing bad about this. I mean, there's a lot of things I'm just trying to learn, and I call, Scott, as far as the board, not trying to hoodoo anybody or, hoodoo any one person or a situation. I agree. I mean, sometimes, well, matter of fact, most things that I brought before him, I brought it before you all. So, but I understand what you're saying, but also, if I'm not clear on something that you all are because you've been there longer than I have, then that's the reason I've called him and questioned Scott on the legalities of things, just because I don't understand. It's
Sure.
not that I'm trying to get an angle.
Sure, Chad, and I have no problem with that, but your question should be sent with the answer to the board. Because I may have the same one or need to be refreshed, and any information that has been given to the board member should be shared with the board. I mean, that's why you have a board attorney.
That's true. I ain't disagreeing with that. It's just sometimes I don't like to ask that question, for just a simple part as sometimes I feel like I should know and I don't know.
Sure, we're all there.
Mr. Hammonds?
I see what you're saying, Todd, but for time's sake, there's times that I want to call for information, but I don't have a problem, and I even think it's state law, that if he's asked what board members have called, I don't have a problem with him sharing what I've asked. I don't, he's a man of integrity. He's not your typical attorney, and I don't mean that in any disrespect, but I don't see him being part of any plots or devising plans to undermine the board or anyone else. He's just got too much character and ethics about him for that.
Can we call for the question?
Okay. I have question called. We'll ask for roll call vote.
Ms. Buchanan?
Could you clarify the motion again? I'm sorry.
The motion is to accept Scott Bennett as the school board attorney for 4 years.
Thank you.
Yes.
Mr. Day?
Yes.
Ms. Dellinger?
Yes.
Mr. Fleener?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Ganger?
No.
Mr. Hammond?
Yes.
Mr. McLean?
Yes.
Mr. Meredith?
Yes.
And Mr. Irvin?
Yes.
Okay, they just voted to change the contract.
Okay. Moving on.
I've lost connection.
Trying to dig down in here and find me the next one. Mr. Planner, you speak on the budget.
Yes, sir. The budget adopted by the board on April the 28th was forwarded to the county commission on May the 1st as required by law. The budget was reviewed by the county's budget committee on May the 6th. The committee voted to send it back to the school board with a request to make amendments necessary to return the budget without the need of additional operating funds from the county. Mr. Chairman, I recommend you schedule a call budget workshop. And as an FYI, there are 2 more budget committee meetings on the calendar for May, those being on the 13th and the 21st.
Okay. Can I hold off till we get to the end of the meeting, then we can set our... Okay, I'm gonna hold off till we get to the end of the meeting. Then we'll make our budget meeting. Committee reports. Finance Committee. Mr. McLean.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We met yesterday. It's been in your Dropbox. Jennifer, can we bring up the report itself?
Yes, it's loading.
Okay. Since it's been in your Dropbox, I assume I won't have to read it.
Can you keep that up?
And I move for approval of the report.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Can you give me just a minute? I can't get the report pulled up. I just want to look at it 1 minute, if you don't mind.
Okay.
so funny? Somebody on there is laughing.
You got it, Chad?
Just go ahead, Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry.
Okay. I have a motion and a second on the report. Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Buchanan?
Yes.
Mr. Day?
Yep.
Ms. Dellinger?
Yes.
Mr. Fleener?
I'm gonna abstain because I have no idea, I can't get this to pull up.
Mr. Ganger?
Aye.
Mr. Hammond?
Yes.
Mr. McLean?
Yes.
Mr. Meredith?
Yes.
Mr. Irvin?
Aye. Motion passes, Mr. McLean.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Committee moves for approval of the general fund financial statement for the month of March 2020.
Okay, do I have a second?
A second.
All right. Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Buchanan?
Yes.
Mr. Day?
Yes.
Ms. Dellinger?
Yes.
Mr. Fleener?
Abstain.
Mr. Ganger?
Aye.
Mr. Hammond?
Yes.
Mr. McLean?
Yes.
Mr. Ganger, or, sorry, Mr. Meredith?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Irvin?
Aye. Motion passes, Mr. McLean.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The committee moves, I'm trying to read that up there, and you keep me.
Sorry.
The committee moves for approval of the federal fund financial statement for the month of March 2020.
I have a motion, I have a second.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Buchanan?
Yes.
Mr. Day?
Yes.
Ms. Dellinger?
Yes.
Mr. Fleener?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Ganger?
Aye.
Mr. Hammond?
Yes.
Mr. McLean?
Yes.
Mr. Meredith?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Irvin?
Aye. Motion passes, Mr. McLean.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The committee discussed the proposed FY21 federal projects budget as of today's date. The committee moves for approval by the full board.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
A second.
Okay, discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Buchanan?
Yes.
Mr. Day?
Yes.
Ms. Dellinger?
Yes.
Me.
Mr. Fleener?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Ganger?
Aye.
Mr. Hammond?
Yes.
Mr. McLean?
Yes.
Mr. Meredith?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Irvin?
Aye. Motion passes, Mr. McLean.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That completes the Finance Committee report.
Okay.
Okay, I have a question on the Finance Committee. What about the print shop proposal? What was said on that? I may have missed it.
Yeah, the print shop.
What did we do about the,
There was some information that we were supposed to get.
Yes, come to find out, that particular item, Brad, what's the name of that outfit we're associated with, the contract people?
Rocco?
Yes,
Rico?
there's a document Jennifer can pull up that has that on there. It's U.S. Solutions, I believe. It's a buy-in co-op that we're already a part of. So the pricing that they gave us is actually part of that co-op pricing, which means it does not require bids. And typically in the past, you don't beat that pricing anyway. I was not totally sold on it last night until I had a call this morning with the rep and a few of their representatives, and Jennifer can pull the document up, and I have my recommendation and some key points to consider, as well as documentation from Rico that they sent me about this lease. Yeah, and Jennifer has that on the screen right now. So that first page is just my summary and what some of the key advantages are. First of all, of course, I look at the price, and compared to what we're paying now, we're in a 60-month lease. We have about 1 year left on that lease, and they're allowing us to get out of that final year lease if we upgrade.
and the cost savings is broken down. It's actually going to be quite a bit of cost savings if we consider the whole package they're offering. My screen has lost that document, Jennifer, so I'm going to try to pull that up myself on my end. And okay, I've got it back. So
we lost it too, Brad.
okay. Oh wait, but basically on the standard monthly rate, this would not include any cost for the printing of black and white or colored print, but it was going to drop from $22.82 to $21.50. And then there's also a reduction, so that's about $132 a month and some change over 60 months. So that amounts to over $7,900 in savings there over 60 months. Another key thing is they're going to waive the first 3 months of that. So that's a $6,450 savings. And then they have lowered the per click usage on the black and white printing. That amounts to, on average, based on what we used last year, which is almost 20,000 sheets a month on average, at $39.52 per month. So that's an additional $23.71. So all in all, this package is going to represent about a $16,769 savings compared to the one that we're in now for an upgraded machine that has more capabilities. And those capabilities, some of those are listed on a couple of sheets past the one Jennifer's on, but it is the co-op group is U.S. Communities Co-op, and we're already a member of that, get some of the custodial supplies through that. That's makes it pretty solid. I'm pretty confident on the pricing. We won't beat this. One of the key things when I talked to Chris Tipton this morning, who runs the print shop, is that they're going to have a scanner capability with this that he does not have there, and he said that's just a huge benefit. It'll save him a tremendous amount of time. But this machine is a Ricoh Pro 7200S, and if we go forward 1 or 2 pages, I think 2 pages, Jennifer, it'll talk about some of the key upgrades as well. This lease does include free installation, training, repair, and maintenance is free, all the parts. It does include toner and ink and staple. That's a huge expense that we would be saving as well. So, you know, down where it says on what I'm looking at now, Ricoh Pro 7200S improvements over the current state, you can see those 7 or 8 bullet points that it lists. I won't read them word for word since you can see them. But the quality of the printing is supposed to be better, newer upgrade. And you can see some of those things listed. There's another page that tells you the additional things that I just mentioned that was included as far as repair, maintenance, toner, ink, staple, and let's see, maybe this one's it. That third box there where it says cost per copy includes parts, labor, staples, and toner as well, and it is blocked for 60 months. So based on the call this morning, and back to my summary on the first page, I don't see any reason for you as the board not to approve this, but of course that is your decision. But it certainly has my recommendation based on the information I found out this morning.
So can you tell me what the total savings you come up with? Is it 16? What?
Yes, it's back on page 1 of this document. If you consider all the savings, which includes the first 3 months that they're going to waive, it's over $16,000. I want to say it was $16,000. There it is. About halfway down the page, second bullet point with the circle, total estimated cost savings is about $16,769.
So the basic program here is that the printer he now has 1 year left on the lease. He's going to let us out of that 1 year for no penalty whatsoever. He's going to bring in a 4-year newer machine at a lower cost.
That's correct.
And the cost that we pay covers everything it needs to be covered for the next 5 years.
That's correct.
Well, I'd like to make a motion, we accept this new contract for him.
I'll second that motion.
I have a motion and a second that we accept this contract. Any more discussion?
Well, I've just been very amazed at our school visits, all the things they do in that print shop. It's amazing.
Brad?
Yes.
One of the questions that Mitch brought up yesterday was what kind of interest do they apply to this? Did they give you any idea what that was? Or what the buyout would be if we simply bought it?
Yeah, to buy it, you're talking, they told me right around $105,000 to buy this particular machine.
And how does that compare with the lease cost over 5 years?
If you do the lease cost on this, when you put that 2,100 and multiply it out, is, I want to say that runs about 120-some thousand. This, of course, includes free repair, maintenance, and toner, ink.
Does both of them, if you buy it, does that include the maintenance?
No, you'd have to have a separate maintenance contract and someone to service it.
Okay.
For that.
So we're better off on the lease program than we are buying anyway then.
That would be my recommendation, especially with budget being tight right now. We'd have to cough up over $100,000.
And plus, at the end of that.
Hey, Mr. McLean,
I'm sorry.
I took the purchase price that Brad gave us, the anticipated purchase price, and looked at a 15% residual value on the copier. And without all the other savings that he was talking about in terms of maintenance and whatnot, it was working out to be about an 11 or 12% interest rate, annual interest rate. But with those costs, those other operating cost savings that he would have, you know, it's probably getting down more into the 4 or 5% range. So
very doable, very doable.
So how much money are we saving by not outsourcing all the paperwork we do?
I figure every copy we probably save at least 30% of the cost of what we have paid for.
Okay, so that would take it down even more.
Oh, yeah, he does very
Oh, yeah.
bit of our reproduction.
Okay.
I think a rough figure I heard was at least 15 to 20,000 a year is what we'd have to pay minimum.
Go way down on Carlos.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. I need a roll call vote.
Ms. Buchanan?
Yes.
Mr. Day?
Jason, you there?
Yes, I'm sorry, yes.
Yes.
Mr. Fleener?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Ganger?
Aye.
Mr. Hammond?
Yes.
Mr. McLean?
Yes.
Mr. Meredith?
yes,
Mr. Irvin?
Aye. Okay, anything else on finance?
No, sir, and I apologize for that. I did not have this updated information.
Brad, you good?
Yes, that's all I have.
Okay. New business,
That was.
or no? Staff reports. Do we have any staff reports? Nobody here? Mr. Patrick, he's done. New business. Any new business?
Yes.
Yes?
Director of School Evaluation.
Well, that's where I was going. Okay, directors of schools evaluation. Have you got that? What is that? Are we doing that on the internet like we did the last time, or is
Yes,
that?
yes. Actually, this will be the first time we've done it this way. You'll be doing it by SurveyMonkey,
Yeah.
and I will email you the link tomorrow. And if you can get that completed within the next couple of weeks, so that you all review it like it is on your annual agenda, that you do that in June.
So it's the same, format, and it's the same everything, except it will be online.
Rather
Okay.
than completing it and mailing it in.
Sure.
But I'll email that to you tomorrow,
Okay, thank you.
It's due back when?
within the next couple of weeks.
Who does that? Does it still go to, does it go to you or TSBA or?
TSBA. Go straight to them and they'll compile the report.
Anything else? Did you all get that that's on the screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay. WCEA? Nobody saying nothing?
I got a text from somebody, if I may repeat it here. They said a big thank you for Dr. Flannery and his steadfast concern for everyone's safety. That's from a member of the WCA.
Okay. Round table, but I'm gonna say right now, everybody look at your calendar and let's set a date for the budget meeting and the other stuff that we have to put on the agenda.
Well,
Mr. Chairman, I'm assuming we'll be able to join this meeting electronically just like we have tonight, for the time being.
Yes, it's within the governor's.
Yeah, unless he lifts it.
I don't think it's gonna be lifted by the end of May, but we're gonna check on that.
Okay.
If he lifts it,
Well, when do y'all wanna meet?
Does it have to be next week?
I'm open.
All right, he said there's 2 more budget meetings in May, the 13th, and what was the other one?
Oh, what did I say? The 13th and the 21st, that's on their calendar.
It would have to at least be before the 21st, would be my guess.
I can't tell by looking at their online calendar when the full commission meeting is.
They meet every Wednesday, don't they?
No.
well, it wouldn't be Memorial Day, so they would have to, I bet they do that. June 1st.
Dr. Flannery, what was the question?
Mr. Meredith, in looking at the online calendar, it appears that the commission is meeting every Wednesday until Christmas, and that can't be right.
Yeah, they have established weekly meetings for essential services and to get coronavirus updates. Those meetings really do have limited agendas. Next full, I think that the regular full commission meeting is May the 22nd. If that's next to the last Monday of the month.
It's on a Friday night.
That's on, the 22nd's on a Friday night, Mitch.
Well, move it, whatever the fourth Monday is, I guess, or next to the last Monday.
The 18th.
The 18th?
Correct. That would be it.
Okay. So you said their meeting, budget meeting was the 13th and the 21st?
Yes, sir.
So we
If
can't,
the calendar's right.
so we,
Go ahead, Todd.
we can't meet, we don't have time to meet before the 13th meeting.
You can't get your agenda.
Agenda.
Yeah, okay.
And just for some inside knowledge, I don't think they were expecting to have it back next week.
We'll meet next Thursday.
Does anybody have a problem with the 18th or the 19th?
Sounds good to me. 19th be the best for me,
19th good with everybody?
What time?
the Tuesday.
4 o'clock, 4:30, 5 would be better for me. 5 o'clock on the 19th. We're good.
Okay.
May I make a little statement?
Yeah.
Everybody remembers the motion we voted for to go to the budget. And the article in the paper today said that they asked for us to come back with a balanced budget. So I'm requesting everybody to look at the general fund budget changes that Brad gave everybody a copy of. Look at that first column, which is identified as step only. And most of that has got to be done. Then in the next group, optional budget items for FY21 requested. I think we pretty much decided that the books had to be done. We need to look at the balance of that, and without taking 3 hours to do it, ladies and gentlemen, we need to decide what's going to stay on the list and what's not. And if all of us will study that a little bit, and maybe we can come to a consensus in about 30 minutes or maybe 45 minutes on that, and get it back to where it's presentable to the county commission. Anything you want to add to that, Mr. Hale?
Yeah, no, that sounds good. The only thing to remember is our minimum requirement, on a raise for certified staff, it's right around the 0.25% to be in line with what the guidelines are with the BEP estimate. So at minimum, if you peel back the 1% raise, at minimum, the certified staff have to get at least about 0.25%. Just keep that in mind.
Do you remember what the amount was if we gave everybody a quarter?
Yes, the amount to the system would be 120,000. If it's certified staff only, it's 90, because for salary, certified staff accounts for about 75% of the cost.
Okay.
But 120,000 for all staff for a 0.25% raise.
How much was it for a 0.5%, Brad? I'm sorry to put you on the
Double
spot.
that, double that.
Well, that's not, it'd double, it'd be about 240,
It'd be
245.
double? Okay.
Yeah, double. And that's, you add that to the 892, 930, right?
You would not, or excuse me, I don't have that sheet in front of me. The 892 is the total of the F-2. Is that correct, Mr.
Yes,
McLean?
under the step
Yeah,
loan.
and you're correct. You're correct. I don't have that sheet right in front of me, but yes, you would add either the 120 or the 240 to the 892.
And the state does send the 0.25% for certified teachers, correct? That has included?
Where that 0.25% comes in is on the BEP estimate. We're required to put 336,000 in certified staff salaries, and the step increase alone doesn't quite cover that for certified staff. So there's about 0.25% that would cover, is what would cover it. If you had a 0.25% raise certified staff in addition to the staff, that would cover the required amount.
Okay, so that was in addition. Okay, thank you.
Can we get some clarification on that bus budget at this meeting?
Say that again, Jason.
I wonder if we could get some clarification on that bus budget. I'm still kind of off the other night. We talked about voting for propane buses to save money, but it sounded like our expenses went up. I was hoping we could relook at that and get some clarification. I voted off Jared's proposal, and it sounds like something's out of line. I just need I'd like to have some good clarification by the time we have that meeting, if possible.
Yeah, we revisited that actually, Jason, since the meeting, and at the time when I met with Transportation Supervisor, he wasn't really comfortable lowering the budget on diesel fuel because it would be a total guess at this point without any hard data. So we didn't originally. We went back and re-looked at what we have spent on diesel gas and what we would have spent. So, I'm pretty comfortable when we come back, we could probably knock about 50,000 out of the diesel budget based on what we would have probably spent this year. The propane expense line item had to go up though, because we're going to be buying more propane for propane buses versus the propane we're getting now.
Will that be like a one-time deal? I mean,
you buy propane you go buy propane for the buses going on a yearly basis going forward.
Well, I understand, but I mean, would it be like would that be in the budget? Where did our savings go to? We was talking about by buying these propane buses. So where are we going to see that?
Well, just with gas, you're going to save on the diesel now. As far as estimated repair savings, that's a complete estimate. It hasn't happened yet, so we don't have any data, but Turbo Talk, you would think you would have less engine repairs, other repairs that typically are associated with buses. You're talking 5 buses, I believe, 5 propane buses. So, I mean, we could do a total guess, but what 5 buses maintenance might save us, but hard to do without hard data. I mean, we could take a guess.
That's fine. Mr. Chairman, can I ask one more budget question?
Yeah.
And I'm just a little confused on it. I was talking with Dr. Flannery the other day, and I guess I should have asked him, but I just didn't think about it until afterwards. when we budgeted the 1.7 million last year, and then the way I understood it, we spent about 500,000 of the 1.7. Where did we see the 1.2 that we didn't spend? Where did that show up as a credit in our budget, or how would that look? How was that supposed to look? I was confused after I thought about that conversation.
Brad, do you want to answer that?
Yeah, so talk to me about the 500,000, Jason. Where's that?
Dr. Flannery might be able to explain it better. We was just talking the other day about when I was trying to understand, you know, from being a new board member last year, we was all upset about going 1.7 over, and then this year we're up to 3.2 over. But the way he explained it to me, we didn't necessarily use the 1.7 last year, but then we're 3.2 over this year. So I'm trying to understand where did you show us the 1.2 that we didn't spend if we didn't spend it?
Jason, it just went right back into fund balance. You never needed any of the fund balance that you had to use to balance last year's budget. So our fund balance is projected to go up by that much. But in order to get where you want to be for FY21, you're going to have to draw an additional amount unless you carve your ask back at the call meeting. I don't know if that makes sense or not. You didn't need all the money you budgeted, I guess is a short way of putting it.
Okay. I was just wondering how we thought we needed that much and then we didn't need it.
Well,
That's why it's called a budget.
Well, 1.2 million, I can budget pretty good myself. I can miss at 1.2 million.
It's a $70 million budget, so we budget for worst case scenario. So, because, you know, with us, you don't know how many kids are going to show up, and at the beginning of this school year, there was about 9 teachers that had to be hired because we had increased enrollment, and that increased enrollment isn't all in one place, so you don't necessarily, you don't know where you're going to have to hire teachers, I guess. So we budget for that, have a little bit of room there. Sometimes we have to use it, sometimes we don't. But the easiest way for you to see where we didn't spend the money was go to the audit report. And there's a financial page we went over in last year's audit report. It'll have each expense line item with what was budgeted and what was actually spent. And it'll show you the either deficit or the
So let me ask you this. So taking into consideration what Mr. McLean's asking us to do, how much buffer is in this 3.2 million that we really may not need? Do we have any idea?
No, you don't. You're trying to match expenditures with revenue, and there's no way to do it precise now until we work through the next year.
What makes it worse is the uncertainty of sales tax, which is the biggest chunk of our tax support.
And the other point is, he's got his first estimate on BEP, but that's not the final estimate. Brad, what will you probably get? 2 or 3 more BEP updates?
I'll have 3 more. We get a BEP estimate in May, June, and then the final one's in July. And of course, it always changes. It never stays the same. I think last year the July estimate came in about 60 or 70,000 less than the original April estimate, but we don't know that when we do the budget. So, in fact, when we do the budget, we typically will have May's estimate, but not June and July. And sometimes there's additional revenue that comes in. That, for example, this year we got 300,000 in that E-rate court settlement through the Federal Trade Commission. We're getting BEP growth funds this year to the tune of $222,000, but those were set aside, or that you all decided last meeting, to go towards the purchase of the books, because of that 700 and some thousand that's needed for the books. About 517,000 of that was additional revenue we got this year that was unbudgeted. So that will inflate your fund balance. So it's looking back at last year, we just have to look at the details if you want to know why. But we had a very good year last year and added to the fund balance. And thank goodness we did, because of the COVID situation we're in now, we comfortably had enough money to pay our employees. still. And if, because if we wouldn't have had that fund balance buffer, then it'd be a different story that we'd be facing right now. And what I was saying, Jason, is if you're going to budget, if you are going to take it up to around the 3 million budgeted pull from fund balance, and if it really happens, like you have it budgeted next year, you got a much tighter budget and you got to get it, you got to make some big cuts next year. That was just my point, is you budget for the worst case scenario, but if it happens, you've got to cut it next year. So thank goodness we had a good year last year, especially with what we're facing now with COVID and the uncertainty of what our sales tax is going to be. Because me nor Mr. Meredith have any benchmark to really guess what sales tax is going to do here when we get May and June's numbers. And what happens in July, we don't know yet.
Yeah. I think we're to the point where we need to make some big decisions very soon.
Okay, round table. I'm gonna start with Mr. Hammonds.
Good meeting. Not much to say there, but appreciate all the work the administrators are doing, and appreciate the principals and Ashley getting together on graduation, thinking of alternatives, and grateful we're still feeding, cafeteria workers are still feeding the kids. That's all I've got.
Mr. Fleener.
Teacher Appreciation Week. Just want to thank our teachers, our administrators. Thank you so much for the graduation. I'm sorry for the parents just wondering about the not knowing. We don't know either. So looking forward to talking about the budget next week. I still think there's some things that we need to do. And looking forward to that discussion. I also would ask Dr. Flannery to take a look at doing some extra maintenance around our schools while we've got no kids in them, especially at Grandview and Boones Creek, to try to let's find out once and for all what the deal is over Boones Creek, what we're going to take care of, what we're not going to take care of, and come to some consensus on that to keep from bringing it up over and over and over again. But just appreciate, hopefully we'll all be together here soon. Thanks.
Mr. Meredith?
I guess I would just like to say, normally at this meeting, we would be getting ready to congratulate all of our students and looking forward to the end of the school year. But we've already ended the school year, and what I would like to say is that I hope that all of our students and families actually find some good time to spend together, and that this COVID-19 issue moves out of the way so we can somewhat get back to normal and these families can get out and have some time, and as some of our principals and teachers are doing, get ready to take some vacation. Then I hope we're just central office staff and everybody just gear up and get ready for next year. That's all.
Mr. Day?
Hey, okay. Good meeting. Appreciate you guys, and thanks for all the staff and Brad and everybody working so hard, and look forward to trying to work towards improving everything we can and being more efficient as best we can do, and trying to get these kids ready, and hopefully next year is going to be a much better year. Hope they have a safe summer, and hope graduation works out for the best interest of everybody. Thank you, guys.
Ms. Dillinger?
Just like Jason said, I'm hoping that our graduates get to have a traditional graduation and everything works out. And thanks to Dr. Keys, Ms. Wright, Mr. Campbell, and Mr. St. John's for their planning. All of the planning that's gone into it so far has been excellent. Congratulations to all our employees who are retiring this year. And thank you, Dr. Flannery, for your comments in opposition to vouchers and their effect on public schools. Thank you.
Mr. McLean?
I'd like to ditto that comment on the vouchers. Appreciate what you said, Dr. Flannery. Sure everybody's been hearing about all that in the news, and some judge has finally thrown it out saying it was unconstitutional. So my hat's off to that judge for recognizing that. Hearty thank you to all of our teachers. They do a phenomenal job for this system, and especially during this difficult time where they're trying to continue the education online. My hat's off to all of our students for all the work that they're doing. My hat's off to all the cafeteria workers that have continued to feed the thousands of meals that they put forth for us. And just a good job of trying to keep us safe by Dr. Flannery and his entire staff. And my comment to each one of you tonight is stay safe, and I'll see you next time.
Ms. Candace?
In honor of Teacher Appreciation, I would like to thank the teachers of Washington County, especially the ones that had my children this year that have been putting out things for them to do, and they have called and checked on them, and it's really been over and beyond. And I'm sure that if my kids' teachers are doing that, everyone else is too, and I really appreciate that contact that you've kept with the children. I'm thrilled that we have at least something put in place for graduation to see what we can do for these kids, because they've worked hard, and they deserve to walk across the stage in front of their families. That's all, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Ganger?
Yeah, the only thing I would want to say is, and I guess it's clarification for the senior class and parents. Moving forward right now, they are to plan on a June graduation. Is that not correct? And if it doesn't work out, it'd be pushed to July. Is that what I'm thinking is happening?
That's my understanding.
The
Okay.
motion,
Just
that's
so
what this board voted on.
Yeah, and I just want to make sure, I mean, 'cause that way they can tell family members or whatever, hey, this is the June, I don't remember the date, is the day we're.
19th and 20th of June.
Okay, all right, 19th and 20th of June, so as a David Crockett senior, what day is David Crockett's?
They'll have to figure that out.
Well, we need to know, is my point. These kids need to know, these parents need to know. And I'd like to maybe decide that tonight.
Well,
I think that's a good.
is it okay for the board to do that? Is that overstepping our, as to the?
Board can do whatever it wants to.
Okay.
Can I ask who was supposed to be the 9 a.m. Class?
David was supposed to be first this year, Todd.
Well, then I'd like to, I don't know if I need to make it in a motion or not, but I'd like to make.
Will you accept the motion in round?
I was,
Sorry.
yeah.
Hey, would
Different time,
would
that's
it,
COVID.
would it be acceptable to go ahead and let the administration set that? I mean, is this something the board actually needs to set, which school is having it on which day?
Well,
My suggestion was gonna be, since Crockett was first, this year, do it on the 19th. I think.
Is that the Friday?
19th and 20th.
19th, and then Boone do the 20th.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
since the board has brought this back to the floor, the hot button issue is how many guests per child get to come. I mean, what time of day, who goes first, that's meaningless compared to how many parents get to come. Some of these kids have 4 and 5 parents.
Yeah, I understand
I'm
it.
thinking that's gonna be resolve itself as we get closer and we see what,
Well,
is
the
lifted.
next time you meet will be like a week before this happens.
Unless I thought we was putting it on the
Agenda for next
agenda
week.
for the call board meeting. That'll be on the 18th.
I will have absolute up to the minute medical information at that meeting.
And we will make that decision on how many kids will come, or how many parents is allowed to come.
And mask, gloves.
Am I allowed to make a motion on that?
Let's hold off till that 18th.
These kids and
They
parents
need to
need to
know
know
that.
what night.
Well, that still gives them a month. I
Keep
mean,
these
if the
kids
18th
want
of
to
May,
know, and these parents want to know what is gonna happen, and you've got.
I understand,
we can
Todd,
give
I
them
really
that.
do.
We can give them that just by making a motion tonight, and just designating David Crockett Friday night and Daniel Boone Saturday, or day, or morning, whatever it is. I mean,
Can't make a motion round table.
Second.
Leave those people on the screen.
I'm gonna follow suit with what I said, can't make a motion in roundtable, so I'm gonna postpone that motion till we do it at the 18th. And that gives everybody a month to June, that'd be a month before we,
On something so minor as that, just letting Crockett know, hey, this is your night, and boom, this is your night, you're gonna just not do it. That's not that big of a deal.
Chairs, a stage, lighting, sound. Oh, yeah.
but you can't get it done in a month?
I don't know. This is new ground.
Well, I mean,
I don't think it'll matter how many people can come, as they can still know what night they're coming if they get to come.
Yeah.
I mean, I was just messing with Todd, but
I'm gonna
seriously.
make a motion, we let David Crockett have June 19th, and Daniel Boone will be June 20th. And board can recognize it or let it go.
I'll second.
Yep.
yes, I'll allow the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I have a motion and a second. I have a second on Crockett being on the 19th and Boone being on the 20th.
Mr. Granger?
Alright, no, is the 19th gonna be, that'll be Friday night, and Boone to be Saturday morning? Is that what we're doing? Saturday morning, or are we gonna do it Saturday night? Because that's a discussion.
Be off work.
Yeah, you may have to have two different ceremonies.
No, we ain't said nothing about no two
They-
different ceremonies.
Ashley Keys did.
Well,
And things like that can play out, but I think even that doesn't matter, it's just the day they know.
Yes, the
It
dates.
do- They may,
need that.
we may have to have one in the morning and the evening, but that doesn't matter. They need to know the day.
Yes.
alright, but do we wanna have Boone's at Saturday morning or Saturday night?
We need to let
You're
them-
having Crockett's at Friday night.
No, the motion for Crockett to have theirs on Friday. They'll have the Friday day, Boone's gonna have Saturday, and July will be the same if it gets pushed to July. No times were placed in my motion.
Well, don't we need a time? Do you wanna do it?
Eventually, yes.
Do you wanna do it in the mornings? So people gonna take Friday morning off, work?
That will play out when we know how many we can have.
Mr.
We just need the dates in stone for who's gonna do what, so the parents know what to do. So if I need to be off work that Friday, I'm gonna go in tomorrow and say, I need off work on Friday.
Chad, you had something to say?
I hate to kick this dead horse again, but
No.
the thing we need to do is make a motion that we suspend the rules to make a motion in roundtable. Is that not the correct way of doing this?
That's just chairman's rule. This board, if I'm not mistaken, Dr. Flannery, can, if we vote to make a motion, can do that. Is that not correct?
Yes.
We're just following the chairman's rules.
Well, I thought that was gospel.
Depends on what day church session is.
It's chairman's decision whether or not to accept the motion.
Call for the question.
Okay.
Did you get a second?
I'll second.
I have a second.
I didn't hear.
If you want
So,
to include that in that July.
Yes. Yeah.
alright, we'll decide the times later. If that's what everybody's agreeing to. I have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Buchanan,
Yes.
Mr. Day,
Yes.
Ms. Dellinger,
Yes.
Mr. Fleener,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Ganger,
Aye.
Mr. Hammond,
Yes.
Mr. McLean,
Yes.
Mr. Meredith,
Yes.
Mr. Irvin.
Yes.
That's all I had in roundtable.
Okay, I guess I ain't got nothing else. We've got the date set for roundtable.
For budget.
I mean budget, I'm sorry. Excuse me, long day. as a famous man named Elmer Fudd says, that's all, folks. Meeting adjourned.
Hey, when did Susan